Okay, so hello to session 46 of our Tarot On sessions into the very heart of darkness of the current pandemic. And we are currently in the fifth, sixth or seventh week of the lockdown here in the UK, and we are still going strong. That's the important thing, that people are still managing on the whole to maintain their health and their sanity, because obviously the mental health issues that are going to arise out of this, and the social issues and the economic ones, will follow the health issues as well. So I hope everyone in the ordinary order of oracular hermits, the OO, are keeping well. So hello to all well and sundry. I'm glad that we can make our circle again, and I hope that you're progressing with your ritual as well. And there is a PDF of the ritual minus spelling mistakes. It's a sacred circle, not a scared circle, although someone pointed out it's a very timely error to make. So 7 weeks in Michigan, indeed. I gather that places like Switzerland are starting to ease up some of the restrictions, so hopefully we will all be coming out of our flattened curves as safely and as soon as possible into what may be a very new normal for all of us. But as tarot readers, we roll with the punches, we go with the flow, we are nothing other than adaptable. And and hello Evelyn, and hello Tony as well. Thank you for the contribution to the ritual as well. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to cover our next little bit of the Tree of Life. I'm going to talk about the Holy Guardian Angel in the center here, because I touched on the Dweller on the Threshold, the Qliphoth, and Coronazon and the Abyss yesterday, and these are the deepest subjects we're going to cover and the most serious ones, and then we're going to slowly come out of our dip into these sessions. Whether it's a perfect V shape of 50 down and 50 back up, or whether it's 50 down and 10 back up, I don't know. I don't know at the moment. So yes, and we're all looking forward to our haircuts. I'm very sure of that, Marcy. So and to talk about that, our reading material is today on Gibora and Hesed, that I neglected to read yesterday, from Dion Fortune, because we'd already done some of Dion Fortune yesterday. And we're going to do a practical method with our tarot that's actually a fun, creative method. So we're going to, I'm going to show you a method from Tarosophy, that's sort of buried in the middle of this book, but it's a really fun method for writing your own stories and your own adventures, your own creativity, and it also teaches you to read tarot along the way. And so it's a hero's journey with tarot cards. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the middle of the tree and these two Sephiroth here, Gibora and Hesed, as we've moved up the tree through these 10 sessions. So if you're not interested in Kabbalah, the Western Esoteric Initiatory system, then and you're watching this as a recording, you can forward on for a little bit and get to the creative method, the practical method we're going to do for storytelling. Otherwise, bear with me. I'm going to talk about Tifereth, which is the center of the Tree of Life, and it's on the middle pillar, and it's above the veil of the outer temple here. And so the central transition point between the Adeptus Minor and the higher grades is what is called the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. And I think Crowley summed it up best when he said it's neither holy nor a guardian nor an angel. We just use that term so no one can confuse it for actually being a real holy guardian angel. And he was a little bit tongue-in-cheek with that, but it is a sort of holy guardian angel, but it is not a holy guardian angel, if that can make any sense at all. Now, the origin of the HGA was brought into Western esotericism by MacGregor Mathers when he stumbled across a manuscript in the Paris bibliothèque, the library, and he translated it, and it is called the Book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. And most people know it because of all of the magical squares, these sacred squares that are in the back of it. And it has a powerful reputation, this particular ritual. It's a 6-month ritual. There's another version, a German version, which was recently translated by George Den, and that's called the Book of Abramelin. And this is a sort of 1-year version, and this is a 6-month version. But to be honest, I favor the 6-month version rather than the 1-year one. And I think both are interesting translation-wise, but Mathers did a very good job from the French, and I think the German has some interesting things in it. It also has a lot more of the squares. It's more comprehensive in that regard, but I still have a soft spot for this version. Now, the ritual itself is a 6-month ritual. It's a very intense ritual. You probably will only ever get a chance to do it once in your life because it is very demanding. And it's a fundamental transition of your state between one form of state and a totally vastly different one. I'm not going to say too much about it because I wrote a journal of my own experience, which was now 14 years ago, called After the Angel. And that's my actual journal from the ritual itself. And more recently, I was asked to write a summary of the Book of Abramelin, of the ritual itself, of what's in it, contemporary references to it, and a sort of overview of it. And that is included in this book, the complete Book of Ceremonial Magic, edited by Lon Milo Duquette and David Shoemaker. And they were very kind enough to ask me to write on the Abramelin in this book, which is section book 6. Okay. So if you want an overview of the Abramelin, then there's one in here, and there's a load of other brilliant articles and insights to every form of Western esotericism. It's not really a full workbook, but it is a really well-edited guide to modern magic in all of its very different forms. There's a lot of different voices in that book. So, having said that, the Book of Abramelin and the Holy Guardian Angel, when you come across that term in other people's writings, that's what they're talking about for the grade of, it's sort of Adeptus Minor into Adeptus Major, up the path of justice, which is the tarot card that connects them, because there's a re-equilibration of one's own sense of self in connection with the rest of the universe. And it makes this triad of justice, noble hermit, the deity or operating principle of our noble order that we're all in at the moment, and the strength card, which is the relationship between Gibora and Hesed. Gibora and Hesed. So Gibora means might, Hesed means loving kindness or mercy, it's sometimes translated as, but this is passive, the might, and the love is active. And the section I'm going to read from Beyond Fortune in a bit will talk briefly about how these two are very close together, how they're related, and how this should be active and this should be passive, and how most of society's problems are because we make Gebora, might, rigor, structure, order very active, and then we think love and mercy should be very passive in regard to that. And unfortunately, the model says that they should be the other way around, and that's when they work best. That you start from love, as Crowley said, love is the law, love under will, but then you modify that and you structure it, but you start with love before you actually do the structuring. You don't start with rigor and order and might, the sort of might is right camp, that you start the other way around. And that's how the tree really models things. Okay, so what we're going to do before I read the Fortune on these two, and then over the next final 3 sessions of this 10 sections, we're going to cover the top of the Tree of Life, and I'm going to read from Bernadette Roberts and talk about the Tarot of the Secret Dawn, and then we can gradually build our way back into more practical things, is this. If you don't need a split deck for this to hand, but I'm going to use a split deck. So what we're going to do, and I've got notes for this, it is in Terosophy, so I'd encourage you to buy the book, but I will put up some notes for this, is I'm going to do a split deck method. So this is the minor cards in one deck, and I've got the court cards, 16 of them, in another deck, other than my Knight of Pentacles, which is obviously being used for our sacred ritual at the moment. And the Three of Cups is missing from the minor arcana because we're using that in our ritual. And I've got the 22 major arcana as well. And I'm going to shuffle each of them. And what we're going to do is make a story. And yes, Stephen Skinner is very highly regarded. He's done a lot of research into the grimoire tradition and some of the Eastern systems as well. And yeah, he's got, I think, a piece in the Ceremonial Magic book as well. I've not had a chance to read everyone's articles in it yet. I was asked to do it at the very last minute. Everyone else had a year and a bit to produce their articles, and I was given a month, and I produced it in 2 weeks in the end, because it was a sort of last minute change of author for the actual article. So I didn't get much chance to write the article, and then I've not had much chance to read the book since it's come out. So this is a split deck method. So we're going to use majors, minors, and court cards. And what we're going to do is make a story together. So hello to Julia and Meredith, better here than not, Adela and Esther and everyone else who I can see in the text there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a story, and I've made some notes for myself, which I'm going to refer to as we go through this. But as I say, this method is in Terosophy. It is buried in there somewhere. And we're going to make a story based on a fairly well-known pattern, a fairly well-known system, but I'll talk about that when we're done. Let's make the story first. Just to answer Tony, I gave a brief bio just in terms of what I went through as I grew up and my interests and so on in the Magister. But I only gave that because I wanted to cover all of the books that I read at the time and the order that I read them in and the work that I did, the ritual work, the witchcraft, the astral stuff, when I started teaching the inner guide meditation, when I picked up NLP and so on, because I wanted a structure from my life so that people could maybe shortcut some of that and just pick up the bits that I found of interest if it suited their life, if it fit in with their studies as well. Yeah, so we're going to make this story up, and I want you to help me in the group, okay? And we're going to do it like this. First of all, we need our protagonist, okay? We need our protagonist. So all stories usually revolve around a protagonist. And hello to Derek, who's just joined us. We need a main character. So I'm going to shuffle my court card deck, okay? My court card deck. And we are going to make we're going to make a character up. And now that's quite interesting. We have got the King of Pentacles is our main character. Now, the first card is a court card, and it describes our character in the ordinary life. Okay, so this is when we meet up first with our character. And you'll notice this in every film, in every book, in every main story that you've read. It's like when we meet Luke Skywalker, he's on his sort of water farm or whatever the farm is, Bantha farm, on Tatooine, I think. There'll be Star Wars fans screaming at the screen right now. But we meet him as a lowly sort of farmhand on a desert planet. And so this character we meet in his ordinary life before he goes on his adventures. Now, because it's the King of Pentacles, it doesn't have to be a male character. It just has to be a character who embodies the King of Pentacles. So can we have some suggestions in the group for what job this character does? And when we meet him in his ordinary life. And I don't know no idea the shape of this story. It could be a detective novel, it could be science fiction, it could be fantasy, it could be romance, it could be anything. We don't know yet. We're just going to make the story as we go along. So King of Pentacles is our protagonist. What sort of character is the King of Pentacles? And this is for the group. Otherwise, if I don't get many... yes, this is indeed the hero's journey, but we'll come on to that towards the end of when we've actually done the story. So a CEO, right? Okay, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the first thing. Right, brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to make him, he's the manager of a building company that's fallen on hard times. He's got to the top of his game. He's about to retire. How about that? He's about to retire, and he's been an accountant all of his life. Okay, and that's where we start off. So he's a very good accountant. He's run his business, and yeah, that's certainly not me. And he's got to the top of his game with regard to he's got the house, he's got the retirement plan all sorted out, and everything else. Okay, now the next card that we have, so I'll take that card out separately so that I can put it, I can remember it. The next card we have is the calling, what we're going to call the calling. And the calling is typically represented by the Last Judgment card, the trumpet blast, the calling. I like the idea of the butcher as well. That would be perfect for a King of Pentacles, particularly with the bull's symbolism, all of the beef that is surrounding him. But for now, we'll have him as a reasonably well-off, quite elderly, about to retire. He's literally about to retire from his business. Okay, now we have the call to adventure. And call to adventure for this character is the moon. The moon. Okay, so we pick that from the major arcana because the major arcana give us our archetypal patterns in life that underpin all of the patterns and structures and journeys and themes and connections that we have between the characters in our life, the court cards, and the events and situations that happen, which are the minor cards. Okay, so we're using this as a sit deck method to show the language of the tarot itself and how we make stories and how we, and this is the hint, how we make readings. So what sort of call to adventure? How would the call come to, I like the wine selling business as well. That might give us quite a more debonair character, perhaps, than our lowly grey-haired accountant. I made him grey-haired. At the end of his tether, at the end of his job, at the end of the day, a bit like my Douglas character in Falling Down, perhaps. Right, excellent. So Evelyn's saying he feels that his life is an illusion and feels a call to move on. Brilliant. Okay, so we either have him getting into esotericism, mystery, and traveling overseas. There's a nice one for the moon. Okay, how about this? And that's one I was going to go for as well. So I agree totally with Esther, and everyone else is wrong because I agree it's strange dreams. But of course, in this, there really is no wrong. So we can have any of those things, but I want to go with strange dreams. Okay, so one night our character is called to adventure by seeing a vision of a far-off place, which I'm going to make a vineyard from one of the other suggestions, he has this really powerful dream that he is in a vineyard and he's someone else, and that his actual life is an illusion, and he has this powerful dream. Okay, and everyone does seem to be having strange dreams. Okay, and he really does feel, as Tony is saying, this is a good call to adventure card because there must be something more beyond the pool. My teacher used to say that the thing with this card is the crayfish never gets out of the pool. Okay, so he has this call to adventure, but then what happens is he has what's typically in these stories a refusal. Okay, he has a refusal, first refusal, because you can never ignore the call. It will keep calling you whether you listen to it or not. And you recognize as well that this scripture is seen in the alchemical wedding of Christian Rosencreutz, where he gets woken up by a trumpet blast on Easter Day. And it's like a mountain has moved, and he wakes up half asleep, half dreaming. He sort of really refuses the call to begin with. But in this case, our guy is going to refuse the call because of the Four of Swords. So he refuses the call. Now, the interesting thing about this card is that it has the word pax in Latin that Pamela Coleman-Smith has drawn here, based on an actual tomb in Winchelsea, a very famous tomb. And if you go and stand in front of that tomb in Winchelsea, close to where she was designing these cards, you can actually look up to your left and see a wonderful priestess image on the stained glass with the word peace on earth, peace, pax, written to the top left of where this tomb actually is. If you look on the floor, you'll see this shape actually is on the floor in front of the tomb as well. So how does he refuse? Why does he refuse this strange dream? Is it just that he goes back to sleep, or something else? So he wants a quiet life. Okay, he wants a quiet life. Retirement. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, this is a card of retirement, isn't it? Good point. So retirement. Okay, so wakes up in the morning and he just wants retirement. Okay, But then something else usually happens in these stories, that someone comes along to wake him out of his stupor and take him on the journey, whether he likes it or not. And that is a mentor. And sometimes it can be a person, sometimes it can be a spirit, sometimes it can be a robot, it can be anything. So let's say that he just wants a quiet life. He wakes up in the morning and he just wants a quiet life. But then, this person enters his life. Now, who is this person? Who is this person? In our story of, he's waiting for a companion. Exactly, Elizabeth, because quite often we need a mentor to get us out of our life, out of our life as it is, because we tend to refuse the call, okay? We tend to refuse the call. So we need a young woman in a red sports car. I was definitely thinking this is a probable younger woman, someone very dynamic, very active, very airy. It could be his son. It could be his son. His nephew comes dashing in. Okay, we probably going to have plot complications later on with a member of the family because there are other family dynamics. So I'd like to go with a stranger. I'd like to go with a stranger that comes into his life. So let's have well, then let's go with his adventurous son then. But no, I think I would prefer to go with I'll tell you what then. His son has been estranged. Let's make all of this up. His son has been estranged from the family for quite a while, and then suddenly, out of the blue, after this strange dream of this vineyard, his son comes back into his life. Now, the son is going to act as a mentor to this guy. Okay. Now, everyone's coming up with brilliant ideas because the mentor could be anything, could be anyone, could be anything at all. Okay. But he and his son are going to go off on some sort of wacky quest because his son is in a hurry. Now, we're not sure what it is yet, but there will be a threshold. A threshold. Yeah, the prodigal son. There we go. We're back on our hero's journey already. So the son comes back into his life with some sort of proposal, but there is a threshold. And the threshold is my God, and this is the threshold. So how does this represent the threshold that both the man and the son have got to get over? Because this is, when we think about this as being Falstaff in Shakespeare, as we looked at in our original lessons in this sequence from the Shakespearean influences, this is someone who has been drinking old sack, sits in an unbuttoned shirt on old wooden benches all day and has forgotten to ask what is truly important to him. So the threshold is in just not knowing what's important anymore. Okay, so this character has become so self-satisfied that he's forgotten to ask questions. And there is this sort of drink thing again. So perhaps the father has become alcoholic, maybe. Perhaps the father has become alcoholic, and the son is far sharper than he lets on. And so he comes and says to his dad something like, come on, we've got to get you out of here. We're going to go on an adventure and wake you up out of... I get the idea as well now that the man has suffered a loss. Perhaps he's lost his wife and the son's mother, and that is partly why the strange dreams and the sort of feminine influence on this card. So it becomes an adventure then for the son, who's come back maybe after finding out about death because he's been estranged from the family, and the elderly guy has sort of succumbed to alcohol, and now the son has to come and rescue him out of his stupor and out of his grief. Okay. Now, the next thing we do is we have tests, allies, and enemies. So they go off on this journey, and we can choose any card from any deck for the test, the ally, and the enemy. Okay, because every adventure has to have some sort of test. So he's lovelorn, he's lost all of that, he's sunken into his comfort zone. So the first person to give me a card, not a card, but either type in major, minor, or court card for the test. Okay, and I'll take the first one that comes up on the screen. So this is for the test. As we go through the hero's journey, once the mentor comes in, you're then shaken out of your existing state and moved into a test in which you find your allies and your enemies. Okay, this is the usual sort of hero's journey. In modern superhero films, it's when the team are put together. The main character usually has to go through tests, and then the team is put together and then is revealed through that time. So a minor, okay, go for the minor. So the minor test, now that's interesting. So the minor test is this. So what is the first test that the two characters now together, the son and the father, have to face? So the son does bring the past with him, that's for sure, and there's difference of opinions. Maybe I get the idea that this is to do with the drink again. I'll need to draw the card. So at each stage, I'll ask just for major, minor, or court card, and I'll draw the actual card. Okay. But when you do it, actually just draw your own cards and see what totally different stories you'll come up with. Yeah. So right. So they both have to leave behind something to do with the business, and perhaps there was something in the past that is yet unrevealed. So, the son tips out all of the alcohol that the father has put into the back of the card. Sorry, not the card. Excellent. Okay, so the first test is that. Now, what is the ally? So give me a court card, minor or major, we can choose for the ally. Okay, so I'll need one of those. The son is a failed creative, that's for sure. And maybe there was something in the father's past that's led to the drinking, but it only surfaced after the bereavement that the son has now come back in order to deal with. And can you see how this might be a standard story, but nonetheless, it's a story we might find in a real reading, right? So here is the ally. Okay, this first card, the Queen of Wands. So they meet an ally along the way. So what character is this in their story? So they've driven away. The son has said that we're going to go off on this adventure following a dream that the father has had but ignored. After the bereavement, and they are now heading away, and the son has thrown all of the father's drink that he tried to sneak into the back of the car. I sort of get that it's maybe. Brilliant. So Meredith has said the Queen of Wands, the estranged sister. I love that. So I was going to shy away from the family thing, but that makes sense. So they have the father and the son haven't seen the estranged, wild, creative, willful, sister for a long time, and she lives abroad. I get the feeling she lives abroad, so she can be an ally. So they go, and they're going to take a ferry or something like that in the car to go and meet up with the sister for some reason. Okay. Now we need an enemy as well. An enemy that can be a court, a minor, or a major for this. So give me one of those in the group, and I'll take that. Yeah, but how about that there is a cat involved and they have the cat back to the sister for some reason after the bereavement. Maybe the mother was looking after the cat, the wife was looking after the cat, and now they have to take the cat back. But there is an enemy, and the enemy is, let's see, I'm just going to shuffle these. And the enemy is, so who is the enemy? Meredith said major, so I've chosen a major card. The enemy is the Chariot. So in what way is the Chariot the enemy in this story? So the father and son are going to try and find the sister, his daughter. She's a bit of a wild child. She lives abroad. They're going to try and return the cat to her after the bereavement. The father still problems with alcohol. Time, I like that. I'll go with time. I quite like the ferryman, a cab driver. It could be any of those things. I was thinking like some sort of security or police officer or something. And Evelyn's put airport security. These are all great, but I like to go with time. Okay, and the ferryman steals a cat, the car that hit the cat. So let's have time pressure and a very let's suppose that this is some sort of official who wants to audit the father something. There's some officialdom that needs sorting out about the guy's company, and this guy is on their tracks. Okay, so we'll have that, and the charioteer is some sort of legal person who has got to bring the accountant guy to justice within a certain amount of time. Oh, something to do with the will. How about something to do with the will? And the father could be dying as well. So there could be an added complication into all of this with time. Something to do with the will that the mother has left, his wife has left, means that, she has said the cat has got to get back to the sister within a certain amount of time. And the father is ill, so he can't do that until he gets there. So this is time, okay? We'll take this not as a person, but the enemy in this case is an illness which is limiting the time to get the cat back to the stepsister. I'd watch this if it was on TV for an evening. So that is our test, our ally, our enemy. Okay. then we go to the major in cave, the revelation, is a part of all of this, and that is a major card. It's always a major card. And this is what's called the inner cave. So he doesn't have much time, and the real heart of this whole story is then revealed to be this. Of course it is. So what is the real beating heart of our story about this guy? Why should we be interested and empathetic with the guy, with his son, with their journey to take this cat back to this wild sister who's been even longer estranged than the son? Why should we bother about these people? The sister is pregnant. Maybe if it was the Empress, that could be the heart of the story. But I get another feeling for this. What is the cave? What is the secret inside the cave, the next threshold that I think is pride. I was thinking pride. Yeah, this is something that oh, he's not the father of the daughter. Ooh, yeah, the revelation that is family who you love, or is it the biology? Yeah, I mean, all of the things, the sister could have actually died as well. I quite like the idea, because I think there's enough death in this story. I quite like the idea that it turns out the sister is not a oh, the business will go to a cat charity. Yeah, and so the pride is in having the family, but then suddenly it's revealed that the sister isn't actually his daughter, perhaps. And perhaps he knew that. Perhaps he knew that all along, but his pride has stopped him revealing that from the son. Okay? And that is a major breakthrough in the relationship. That is the inner cave that they have been going around. Can you remember, again, a Star Wars reference, I'm afraid, but when Luke Skywalker goes into the cave on Dagobah, I think, and kills an illusionary Darth Vader and sees his own face inside the helmet, which turns out, and this is a spoiler, to be his father's helmet. And that's purely, George Lucas was using the hero's journey as a template. And that's why he was drinking. Of course it was. Of course it was. Brilliant. Okay, so that is the major revelation in the cave of this story. Now, he then goes through an ordeal. Having recognized this, he's got to face it, and he'll go through an ordeal that can be either a minor or a major card. And he'll get a reward by going through the ordeal in the same way that all heroes or heroines do. When they go through their ordeal, revelation of release, they then get a reward as a result. And that's usually a transformation of some description. So give me a minor or a major, please. Minor or major. Not an actual card, just say minor or major. Minor or major. A minor, brilliant. So his ordeal is this. I'm picking these randomly. I'm not forcing these cards, I can assure you. So what's the ordeal that he has to go through? Having recognized that the daughter is not, well, no, having come clean to his son, that his sister was not his biological sister. So what is the ordeal that the hero of the story, which is still the retired guy, has to undergo? in order to gain any sort of reward or realization from these events. He's got to face his family dynamic. He's got to face his family. And he may just have to give it to charity. He has to realize that his family is not necessarily what he thought. But he still cares for them. And actually, we can see the characters, can't we? If this was a cat, it couldn't be anything better. So he has to realize that and who was the mother? And the sister doesn't want the cat. The sister has a daughter as well, or a son, perhaps. When they arrive, and guess where she lives? She lives in a vineyard. She runs a vineyard. She does, because that's what he'd dreamt of right at the beginning. So the sister, I think we'll all need therapy by the time we finish this story. So the sister actually lives in the vineyard that he saw in his dream. Or the daughter, or the would-be daughter. Okay. Now, what is his reward for recognizing that this is really his true family? It's all he's got, even though he's had to face up to hiding this secret for his whole life from his own children. Now, the reward is either a major or a minor. Major or a minor. There's a fun dynamic, isn't there, in the plotting, where he's an alcoholic, but the dream and his sister and his non-daughter actually lives in a vineyard. Oh yeah, that would be a twist, that the son has a relationship with his half sister. Blah blah blah. There's Nirava, if I pronounce that correctly, Nirava. No matter the relation, he's still in gain as he raised children. So a major card for the gain is this is the major card for the gain. You'll notice the temptation of the grapes, female characters side here. Yes, again, is actually realizing that the secret somehow had his family together, and that even if they may be separate and all have their own shadows, that they can still exist in some sort of family. I quite like the idea of actually starting a retreat, as Julia's saying, they start a retreat together, and that he gets to face his demons, that he gets to face all of the past and unchain it. Temptation of the Grapes, that could be a story title indeed. Oh, I like that. Even though he lives in a vineyard, he knows he is no longer bound to the bottle. So how about something like the unbinding of the bottle, or something like that? Okay, now I know it's a very clumsy story at the moment, and it will require some refining, but it's not too bad as a. You can imagine this as being the paperback that you pick up in the airport. You know, when we used to travel places and go on holiday and sit with other people and all those things we used to do months ago. Well, I think Diane Marco, that he becomes a sort of teacher or something that can actually run a retreat at a vineyard. They can use the grapes to make non-alcoholic drinks. The unbound bottle, banish the bottle. Brilliant. Now, that is reward then, but now we have a third threshold and the road back. This is the return story, which is just as important as the main story. And the main story and the return story are sort of bound together in the cycle that go round. So the penultimate thing is his transformation, is his road back. He comes back to where he started as a different person. And this is a minor card, okay? And just shuffle these. And so he comes back. There we go. There we go. So he fulfills the quest to get the cat there. He faces up to the fact that his family, he'd kept a secret from his family all of this time. He recognizes that there is a future for him, even though he is, in fact, actually, it's a nice transformation when we think about earlier back in the story when he was like so. He's moved, in effect, look at that, isn't that cool? From the 9 to the 10. From the 9 to the 10 through the story. If we remember, this was his trial, I think. Was that his trial or his threshold, the test he had to overcome? So they all lived happily ever lasting. But one final thing. So that is the resurrection or the transformation. But there's a final thing, which is like the elixir or the philosopher's stone. And that is always a major card. In this system, anyway, in the system I do it. And this is what he can then bring to other people, that he can now bring to other people. In alchemy, when he made the philosopher's stone, it isn't gold, it's something you can push to everything and turns it into gold. And every story has a return. The hero comes back. If you think about Lord of the Rings, when the hobbits come back to the Shire and find that it's been overrun by the orcs, even after the big finale of throwing the ring in Mount Doom, there's a last bit where Pippin and Merry come back to the Shire and they have to really show that they've become soldiers, in effect, that they've been at war and they've come back, and they're stronger because they've been drinking the Ent juice for quite a while. So they see off the orcs, and they are no longer hobbits as they left. They've come back with a gift. And here is the gift. Of course it is that the lead character comes back with. He's now free. And he can teach that freedom to others because of his own journey. And this is the case for all of us. Our own journey can lead us to be able to teach the things we have learned, the things we have dropped, the gifts we have gained, the tests that we have had to others. We can share those things. And this is the Fool card. And that's it. There's our story. So what we've done is we've used a particular order of majors, minors, court cards, one of each, and so on, to recreate the journey all the way from the King of Petals to the Fool. And he got his dog, and he got his a dog for himself in the end as well. But still on his own journeys, ones that he dreamt of but refused the first time. He's long moved out of his comfort zone, that is for sure. Okay, does that make sense as a little exercise? What I'll actually do is this I made from philosophy. If you aren't going to buy the book, but whether you do or you don't, I'll take a photograph of the notes I used for this session. And it's basically court, ordinary life, major, call to adventure, minor is the refusal, court card, mentor, minor card, first threshold, and any 3 of the minors, courts, or majors. Test ally enemy. Major card for the second threshold. Minor or major for the ordeal. Minor or major for the reward, because they're bound together. And the third threshold is a minor card, which shows a transformation or resurrection on the road back. And then the final card is the boon, the gift, the elite zone, and that's a major card. Okay? Brilliant. So I wanted to particularly give that method today so that I can encourage you to go and write your own stories. Now, how do you apply this? Is because it gives you practice at structuring stories using the 3 sets of the cards. What I'll do is I'll do a JPEG of the picture itself, okay? But it's in the Initiatory, on the full version of it. And there's also a, I'm trying to remember, Christopher Vogler, The Writer's Journey, I think it's called The Writer's Journey, by Christopher Vogler, okay? That has a modern telling of the hero's journey, and he applies to different films and so on. And of that as a link in the thread as well. Now, I'm going to skip reading Beyond Fortune. We'll read from the Fortune on Gilbert and Hayes tomorrow, because I don't want to collapse too many stories on top of each other. So there was something else I was going to mention. Oh yes, in terms of applying it, it's not only a practice method, but the more you do it, the more you start to see the hero's journey in everyone's lives. In your head, when they come to you for a reading, you start to see the fact that they are facing a test, or they're facing their ordeal, or they've received a boon, but they don't know how to apply it on the road back, and so on. I'm afraid all of the books that I recommend, some of the better ones tend to be out of print, and if I bought them when they were new 30 years ago, then unfortunately some of them are out of print. Okay, and as Evan is saying, yeah, all cards are picked randomly, but I developed, after a lot of trial and error over the years, that particular suit for the ordinary life of the main character, because it made sense. It was a court card. Same for the major, is always a call to adventure, and so on. So the suits themselves, or not the suits, but the set within the cards is structured. Now, then you choose a minor card at random. Yeah. Okay. And as Lily's saying, everyone does go on a continual journey anyway. As a continual journey, and it's a cycle, it's a spiral, it's a continual journey. Okay, thanks a lot for your time and attention. May the stories go with you, and may you make your own stories. And we shall meet up tomorrow to get up to Haystead and Gibora and beyond the abyss, as we start to close off these 10 sessions on the Initiatory Tarot. Okay. Yeah, sometimes Script D, I just have to point out, Don Norman's just put a link to Script D. Sometimes I've had to have my books moved from there because they are copyright and pirated, and they have been scanned up on Script D without anyone's permission. So I would urge people definitely either the books or check out the legality of sources. Script D mainly is okay, but sometimes I have had to take books down from their site. Okay, then, right, take care everyone. Bye for now. Look after yourselves. We're almost through this long tunnel, I'm sure. Okay, bye for now.